don't care.
Call to order. Adoption of agenda, 2.1 recommendation.
That council adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? 3, adoption of minutes, 3.1 recommendation.
That council adopt the minutes from the regular council meeting held on October 7th, 2020.
Can I have a seconder?
Second.
Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Worship. Just to amend the minutes, if you please, there was an omission in the printing of the agenda there. The corporate officers put some new minutes in front of council.
Yeah, just the front page. And then I also have one more amendment. When it says Councillor Smith's report, it says, also voiced concerns over repairs of the ditch at the mayor's property. Well, that is the village property, and my husband is here to speak about that.
Yeah, no, I guess Barb, what was going on there is, the fence was falling in, the ditch was sloughing down into itself, like it was dug out when we landscaped it last time. And the last couple of years, I straightened the fence up twice. And the whole ditch was sloughing right in, so that's why we backfilled it.
I wasn't concerned, I wasn't pointing fingers, but I wasn't aware of what the issues were.
Oh, okay.
All I
Yeah.
asked for was council should have been aware that work was gonna be done there, so that when people say, well, how come McKetty's getting their ditch filled in, we can say.
But it's not our
Ah.
ditch. It's not,
Or,
no, correction here, that is not our ditch.
Okay.
That
Yeah,
is village
village,
property.
yeah.
okay, but you guys were filling in the village ditch.
No.
Or
the
smoothing
village.
it
I
up.
was.
When I drove by, I seen you up there, and
Yeah.
that's all I was asking. I
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
saying it was, I just thought, let's be transparent
Oh, yeah.
and be upfront,
Yeah.
and that's all I was.
So
Oh.
do we bring every single ditch that needs to be repaired, do we bring it back to council? I would like to know that.
If it's in front of the mayor's resident or councillor, yes.
Well, we didn't bring an issue up when Colleen got her new culvert. That wasn't an issue.
It should have been.
It should
Well, it wasn't. So, code call, I guess. Anyway, all in favor? Introduction late items, we have 9.13, and it is on a summit for mental health, and I would like to attend to it. It's nowhere, it's just on Zoom. So,
When is this?
what day is it?
November 25th and
November
26th.
25th and 26th.
And for registration, they're asking for a donation.
Yeah.
So you guys want
Can I have a
to?
seconder on this? All in favor? Yeah, I think it's awesome to, because I'm really on the mental health thing right now.
I would really like to be able to go to that too.
Introduce, okay, public hearing none, delegation 6.1 recommendation, are we phoning this dude or what are we?
He's online.
He's online?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That council hear the delegation from Peter McCartney from the Wilderness Committee via Zoom regarding planning for a future in the event the gas development fails.
I'll second.
Discussion. Go ahead, Peter.
Just a second. Okay, it's not trying on here. I just got it working.
That TV shuts off after a couple of minutes.
Oh, I had shut it off.
Peter, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, we're just trying to get you on the big screen.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Why is this a easement?
Because she's the last one that used my computer for Zoom.
Hi, Peter.
Hello.
I just have one question. Since you don't believe in the oil and gas industry, why are you going through Zoom?
Oh, we can talk about that in a bit, maybe.
Can you guys hear him?
No, I can't hear.
It's funny he's not coming up on the TV.
Okay, just a sec, Peter. We're gonna try and get this through the TV. Didn't we have this problem last time?
Sure, just let me know when you're ready.
Okay. Oh, well, what happens if I switch this? Try speaking now.
Yeah.
No, still.
No, so it's just gonna come through.
Okay,
Just swing
I'm
around.
just gonna move the computer. I'm just gonna put it in the window so you can hear it better.
You're now front and center.
All right, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Alright. Yeah, well, I just, wanted to thank council for hearing this presentation. And, I think there's a lot of conflict, but I actually think that, in the end, we want similar things. So, I also, I want to acknowledge I'm against fracking. I think you all know that. I have good reasons to be against fracking. But I also want to acknowledge that, you're really for it and have good reasons as well.
Well, I'll just stop you there. I'm 53 years
What
old.
I think is more important is that our opinions are not going to be the thing.
No, but I'm gonna stop you right there, Peter, because I am 53 years old and I've lived in the oil and gas industry. My life has consisted of oil and gas, and right now I think you're offending me.
I understand that. What I'm trying to convey is that whether we support or don't support oil and gas isn't going to matter as much as the economics of gas and whether or not that will continue to provide prosperity for the northeast of British Columbia into the future. And so what I'm here to talk about is if that doesn't provide prosperity, which I don't think it will, and I'd like to be able to show you some numbers that confirm that in my mind. What's the plan, right? And I think as a municipal government, you have a responsibility to be planning for the future for contingencies that may or may not happen. So the truth is, gas development in British Columbia, if liquefied natural gas proposals don't go forward, I'm sure you know, gas development is projected to just sort of level off, kind of fade away. So the LNG industry is really what gas development is getting its hopes on. And currently in Asia and actually around the world, renewable energy is cheaper than gas. So wind and solar power about $40 per kilowatt hour, sorry. And combined cycle gas turbines, so a gas plant, power plant that continually provides sort of base load power, is about $56 per kilowatt hour. Now, a lot of people say, oh, well, wind and solar, they're intermittent, they only work when the wind blows and the sun shines. So that is the case currently. So you either need a place to store their power and use it when it's ready, or you need gas peaker plants. And those peaker plants are incredibly expensive. And so what I'm trying to convey is that gas for power generation is going to become extremely expensive backup power. For power generation, a gas peaker plant runs at $175 per kilowatt hour. And so, betting our futures on this industry, I understand what it has meant to the people of this community. And let's be real here. I'm a Vancouver activist living in the South. I get that. I hope that I can tell you that I do understand because I have a lot of family that works in the gas industry.
Have you been up north? Sorry.
And I was born and raised in Alberta. I get
Alberta or Peace?
so much to this community.
But the Peace region, have you actually been to the Peace region?
Pardon?
Have you actually been to the Peace region?
Yes, I've been 3 or 4 times. I was just up a couple weeks ago. It's great. I love this community. I've been there. I've stayed with locals. It's a great little community, and I don't want to see Goose Goopy just sort of wither and die in 30 to 50 years. We can argue about the timeline, but I hope you can agree with me that gas development isn't going to be around forever.
So
and I don't want to see that. I want to see a thriving northern so if it continues warming, we're going to see some pretty apocalyptic things. And so, I think there's a way that we can both have, successful, thriving communities and, meet our goals that we committed to on climate agreements.
So how do you think we're supposed to heat our homes?
They have electric heat pumps that can run on renewable energy. Once they're installed, they are roughly the same price as heating with natural gas. Simple as that. You can easily heat homes with renewable energy. It's just a matter of having the incentives in place for people to install this.
What is it, 45,000?
But it's the actual minutia. I want to talk less about. I want to talk about what we can do. Like I said, I'm just setting this up. I can't tell you.
But I have a hard time talking to you. I have a hard time talking to you because you're an activist for oil and gas, but I'm staring at you through a flippin' computer. Where do you think that generated from?
And my concern with oil and gas is that we're burning it. And we are burning it and sending too much carbon pollution to gas.
Burning it as in
Whether or
what?
not my glasses are made from oil and gas, or the computer or not,
Burning as in what?
that's irrelevant to me. It can continue to be made by oil and gas for oil.
I just want to know what you're talking about, burning by what? What are you talking about by burning? What are you burning? You said burning natural gas. You're talking about the flares?
You're burning oil and gas for power in electricity plants. You're burning oil and gas in cars for gasoline. You're burning it whenever you are using an internal combustion engine to create heat. And that's what most of the oil and gas that we create. And I hope you would agree with me that despite, if we can continue making plastics and things out of oil and gas, that will, even if that continues, that the gas industry will provide the same level of prosperity that it has in their community with us.
So what is a electric battery made out of?
Electric batteries are made of all sorts of things, actually, but primarily lithium. And lithium mines in places around the world have environmental impacts. And the reason every electric power that we have, every form of energy, has environmental impacts. But the amount of carbon pollution that is threatening the future of this planet that is created with renewable energy is far, far less than that of oil and gas. And so if you'd like, you can continue to ask me questions, and I assure you I have an answer for them. I argue for a living.
Well, I'm sure you do, but I'm just trying to figure out why aren't you living under spruce boughs? Because you're sitting in a room, a warm room, painted, you've got a shelf there, you've got plants there. All of that stuff there has been derivative from oil and gas. So you should be living under a spruce bough.
Okay. Like I said, I live as carbon-free a life as is practical in the 20th century. I don't drive, I don't have a car. I live in an apartment building, it's dense in Vancouver, and my house is heated with hydro.
Hydropower that you guys tried to shut down.
And that's my lifestyle, but I also know that that is not a lifestyle that northern people necessarily want.
No.
I'm fine with that. But what I'm saying is that northern people need to figure out what life looks like without oil and gas. And actually plan, this doesn't have to happen overnight, but plan for the next 30 years so that we can get there. And so that northern communities can continue to enjoy the lifestyle that they have. Discovery seems like a great place to live. And I think if with some strategy behind it and attracting retirees,
In 30 years, we'll give you a call.
Discovery already does. Organic agriculture, all these things are great. And as a local government, if you can take those assets that you have oil and gas is not the only asset that this community has, and the Northeast region has, and leverage them to try and find other ways to diversify our economy. I think whether or not oil and gas continues, I sincerely don't believe it will for more than 30 years, but whether or not it does, you'll be in better shape. And so that's kind of what I'm here to talk about, how you can take those things that this country's already doing well, the Northeast is already doing well, and leverage it.
You got 2 more minutes.
I got 2 minutes, okay.
Yeah.
So, honestly, I mean, my background is not in community economic development, but there are lots of options for the Northeast to continue forward. Agriculture, the art sector in Dispersal, and
So-
power. For better or worse, the Northeast has fairly carbon-free electricity grid. The data centers up there for tech companies, and there's all sorts that we can do. Leveraging the lifestyle that you have up there for retirement, tourism, and honestly making an ask of our provincial governments to reinvest back in the communities they've taken resource revenue from for decades.
Well, that I'll agree with you on.
Absolutely, all right. By the end of my presentation, we found something to agree on. That's the thing. I really think that northern communities, if united behind sort of an ask for some sort of transition economy, to be asking for telecommunications infrastructure, transportation, transmission lines, so that
We don't even have the internet up here. Lots of places don't even have the internet, so that's a far reach.
That's absolutely what I'm saying. How can you expect to join this 21st century global economy without, high functioning internet? Every single household in British Columbia should have internet. And if you were to make these asks of the provincial government as part of their climate strategy and with the support of activists in the South and the climate movement,
They already told us no.
I think that would be unstoppable. So that's kind of my pitch to you. I'm not saying you have to buy into the idea.
Well, it probably won't, because I've lived on oil and gas, so.
But we have a problem. The provincial government has a problem, and I think that together, the climate movement and urban communities could offer a solution, which is to invest in whatever it is the northern communities want their economies to run on, and invest heavily in it.
So, have you brought this to the regional district?
I haven't yet. My first stop. We are working on a community-based research report to try and get some of these voices out. It just so happened that I was up in the Northeast a couple of weeks ago, and I remembered the mayor's letter that she sent to me, and I said, if I have the chance to meet with them, maybe this is a good place to start this conversation. So I have brought it to the regional district. I think that would be an awesome next step.
Yeah, you should contact Sean.
Sean at the regional district? Okay.
Yeah, contact him and do a delegation.
Sure. Maybe I can contact Sandy and get some contact info for him. That would be great. And, I think that the more local leaders we have sort of talking about this in rural BC, the better. Because this can come from the South. I just don't have the on-the-ground knowledge or the connections to be able to make a just transition happen.
Well, I'm gonna actually hand you over to our oil and gas counselor who works in the oil and gas industry. Ken Drover, do you have any questions for this gentleman?
Hi, Peter. Peter, there's some distrust, to be honest, especially when from a wilderness group or green group, because we find that a lot of these environmental groups and committees are paid by foreign interests looking to cripple the Canadian oil and gas industry. And perhaps that's some of the bias that you're coming up against when speaking with us. There's distrust, and that's something that has to be overcome. When we here are doing our best to live a good life and certainly not pollute our environment, a lot of farmers, and we hear from the environmentalist, well, the cows produce methane and they're bad for the environment. And then we say, well, look at all these super ships you got coming into Vancouver and Victoria and all the boats bringing in tourists, and don't go pointing a finger in our direction. You have a mess in your backyard you have to clean up as well. City living has its advantages, whether you get to live in a condo and you don't have to run a lawnmower to mow your lawn, and you don't need a vehicle to get from point A to point B because you have subway or mass transit opportunities. We don't have that here. You don't have the minus 40 degrees Celsius where you have to warm up your vehicle for 20 minutes before the windshield is cleaned off before you can go for a ride. And that's a safety issue, because it's not only yourself, it could be your family members or children riding in the vehicle as well. And that's some of the issues that we deal with in living in the north. And so reaching out is certainly a great first step, and I do believe conversation is important, and the ability to work together to find solutions is important. And so I commend you for speaking to us. And please realize that there's some issues between the north and the south that have to be worked out. But with continued communication, perhaps there is a way that we can find some common denominator and work towards it. From our perspective though, we look at the mess up in Fort McMurray, and these oil and gas companies are doing a hell of a job cleaning it up. Wouldn't you agree? Come on now.
Yeah, they are. They are. I've been there, I sit on the land.
Peter, thanks so much. We appreciate your time. All the best.
Say, Martin?
Okay, thank you for having me, and let's keep in touch.
You bet.
Thanks.
You bet. Unfinished business arising from the minutes. 8.1, new business, 8.1 recommendation.
That council received the consumer firework usage guidelines for discussion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. So we've had fireworks every single night for, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks. We've had people complaining online over it. So I'm thinking that something needs to be done. Anybody has suggestions? I know Ken likes fireworks.
Are they being set off on village property?
Yeah.
And is there no bylaw saying that you can't,
No, we need to make them.
well,
There
okay,
used to be.
let's do that.
Somewhere along the line it got lost, so.
Okay, well, let's introduce that then. All things in moderation, but every night is ridiculous. Unless we're in Mardi Gras. We could be the Mardi Gras, the New Orleans of the North.
But that's fine, that's fine. That's fine that they have fireworks, but pull all your flipping money together. Let the fire department know that you're having it. I mean, every flipping night gets to be a little much. Chris? Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. So the recommendation from the bylaw officer in his report is that we could potentially model some of the bylaws that are out there for the city of Vancouver.
Well, they are banning it now.
Yeah, but the one thing I'd
Surrey has been.
yeah, and we believe there's a few that have done it.
But I don't think banning needs to be done, because people are gonna let it off at every holiday. That's what they're gonna do. But it seems to be, it's not just the holidays, it seems to be every night. So if we stipulate that one night During the holiday season, fine. And the rest of the time they're fired. And pull your fucking money together.
Yep. And that was part of the he did put some dates in there where, you know, it might be acceptable too. But the one hiccup to that is I know one of the local retailers does sell them, and the bylaws that we're potentially gonna model call for a ban on the sale of those fireworks. So that may impact that business. We might wanna consider reaching out to that business and letting them know we're gonna do that. And then the other piece, of course, is, you know, it'll remain to be determined how much impact it actually has. You know, like.
So what, do we ask residents for that? To see if it's-
We could, I mean, council's certainly at liberty to, you know, ask staff to put any bylaws in place. Maybe we, you know, we do that or put a draft in front of council first, and if you guys wanna do some community consultation on it, then definitely no problem. My gut's actually telling me that the folks that are setting off these fireworks aren't the type of folks to go referencing the bylaws to see if they can do it in the first place. But,
No,
you
but
know,
I think-
it can't hurt to happen.
I think if we work with the store starts writing down names and addresses, and if they're a Coos Creek resident, then every day they hand that in to us.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't
I'm not
think-
sure
I don't
we
think
can
you
do that.
would, right?
No,
That's a problem. Then we shut it down.
yeah. So,
You know, if they don't want to work with us, then we completely shut down the fireworks.
You gotta be careful setting off fireworks in
Yes.
town. I mean,
They were going the other night, they were lit off here at my famous place. And they were going in all directions.
I have a friend who went boat, and the fireworks from the spent fireworks went into the boat and burned the whole boat, and then the cover and all that stuff. It was quite a lot of damage that was done. So if you do it in a small community,
You know, I know some fire.
right, there's potential. So I think we really need advice from,
Lawyer.
I think so, really.
It's, fireworks are something, some of it now, you know, the little firecrackers or whatever, but some of it is quite involved
Yeah.
to light off if you don't know what you're doing and just,
Chris?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. And to speak to that, Councillor Smith, there's sort of two classifications of them. There's the retail, you know, the stuff that might be available at a gas station, for example, and there's also the commercial grade ones, like the ones we do at our various events. Those absolutely are completely regulated by the province, and you know they're you gotta have a license and all the appropriate safety protocols in place. From what we've seen, the fireworks are a lot like the herbicides. You know, where you've got those commercial farming grade herbicides that absolutely kill everything that it even remotely touches. That stuff needs a license because of the detrimental effects, and then you've got the kind of things you can buy at Canadian Tire. And the reason why those are available from a retail standpoint is that the risk is extremely low. So those fireworks that you're able to buy at a local gas station, you know, according to the province's classification of those items, don't actually pose much of a fire risk. Now, are they without risk? No, I certainly can't say that.
Well,
You know,
Tucker Randall had to put one out at 2 o'clock in the morning because
Yeah.
the couch caught on fire.
Yeah, you know, so.
Would have burned down the trailer.
And I mean, a Roman candle hits an open jerry can, and certainly there's a fire risk there. But, you know, that's part of the province's classification system for them. But, you know, from what the report says, council is certainly within its authority to say, yeah, we don't want any class of fireworks in the community at all. So,
Right.
So if we have the person who's selling these fireworks hand out a copy of the bylaw within the village at the same time, do you think that would work?
Or explain it to them.
potentially,
Explain the bylaw to them.
What if we just had a designated area where you could set up fireworks?
And where would that be?
it's an option too.
You don't have
with
anywhere?
approval from the village office, you can't just go down there to the ballpark and set some off at 2 in the morning.
And there again, Councillor Smith, I think that might address a tiny fraction of the issues we're actually having. Because I don't believe that the people that are setting these off are the type of folks that say, oh, geez, before we do this, we should consult the village's website and see.
Well, I talked to one resident and she had one actually go up on her roof and then it went out. But, I mean, she just lost her husband a couple of years ago and she was concerned.
Yeah.
And it is concern.
Yeah. And that's it. I mean, you guys were elected to sort of take care of those concerns within the community. So, the province has that classification, but again, you're fully within your legislative authority to say, yeah, no risk to pets and property, and even the ones that are deemed sort of safe by the province. We're not interested in having anybody and everybody fire those off in town. You're totally able to set that.
So you'll bring back something?
Yep.
All in favor that he brings something back?
Good.
8.2 recommendation.
That council receives a snow removal policy 4.1 for information.
Can I get a seconder?
Second.
Discussion? Yes.
No changes from last year.
What's your discussion?
Laneways. Does the post office fit into that?
You should.
Well, it's at the bottom of the list of the priorities, and I was just thinking about.
Well, the main streets should be done first, right? Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. The post office laneway, we do make a special exception for that because of the postal service, and we get it done ahead of all the others, so.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
All in favor? 8.3 recommendation?
That council received a report on the possible land sale for discussion.
Second. And I'll just step out. Mr. Burketti? They'll ask you questions.
Yeah, I guess we all know what I'm up to here, right?
Isn't it Donna?
Is it Donna? Well, I'll just double check.
Sorry.
Donna's the.
Yeah, but just so, it would be the next person. Hey, Councilor Grover?
Sure.
Absolutely.
You're in the hot seat.
Perfect. All right, so just an explanation, I guess there's a piece of property which is bordered by the McCaddies. This property is owned by the village, and the McCaddies would like to purchase this piece of property. Now, I understand that you've been taking care of this property yourself for about 20, 30 years?
And we just thought that we maintain it, we might as well own it, extend the yard.
Sure, how big of
It's like-
is this section of land? Piece of
Oh,
property?
it's like a back alley.
A back alley?
It's totally unproductive land.
Is it a place where I could build a house?
God no. Maybe a tiny house, but.
That's a future conversation about miniature homes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, as it is, and there's a power pole in the middle of it,
okay.
and it is, I don't know exactly what there is for infrastructure, but we don't plan on, like, there's a gate in the back, it used to be a fire lane,
Okay,
but they literally gated it off.
gotcha.
There's a man gate, I think there's just a man gate at the back,
they?
it's locked. Super.
The old government building.
Yeah. So it's no longer an access. It's fenced off. When we're done with it, it'll have the same access. You know, if we need to get back there with fire hose or whatever, we'll still have a gate. And, it'll be no different. It just, might as well have it, just sits back there doing nothing anyway. I just got it and.
Marlene?
Okay, when I was young, it was back alley. And for some reason, when the college purchased it, they put a fence around there. And that back alley was lost. Now, was it purchased by the college? So it was just fenced. So there is a gas line in there, right? And there is hydro.
It
too.
doesn't.
It was a back alley, wait a minute. So there's gas and there's hydro down there. So what have they got to say about us selling back alleys? Nothing?
Essentially, nothing, Councillor Hebert. There's gas lines and utility lines that cross properties all over the village. They're.
So I've maintained my property for 41 years. I would like to buy my back alley too.
Barb?
Alfie, do you think it's appropriate that we discuss selling you property when your wife's the mayor? You've lived there 30 years. Could you wait until your wife is not on council, whether that's next term or whatever? It's just a transparency, and
I get what you're getting at, Barb.
you know what I mean? I'm uncomfortable with even discussing this because the mayor lives there.
Right.
You know what, if you've lived there 30 years, there isn't a rush.
No.
Is there?
No.
Yes, but you give us the idea that you'd like to purchase it,
Yeah.
and we can keep that in mind. But at this time, I would feel uncomfortable in discussing
Who's maintaining
you
it?
purchasing
Who's
it.
maintaining it?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm getting at, is I'm cutting it anyway, willing to pay for it. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's up to you guys. That gas line, Marlene, only goes right to the front. If there's no gas line, we just swept it. It's teed off at the front and goes down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It
So your
doesn't.
gas line goes down the front of your property
There's a supply line, yes it does.
and down to the old, is it Harper's?
That gas line tees off and goes down and tees into our place. And it tees and goes down the other right away towards the store.
Because it's a different kind of a setup in there because of, it was the edge of Coos, right? So I
Yeah.
just assumed that it was like every other back lane because it was a back
Yeah,
alley.
that's right.
Because
That's
that's where
before.
they got the garbage and everything
Yeah.
else. And I can remember walking down there. Being a back alley, just assumed that the gas line would run down there and the hydro
No, I think
for all those people.
we just swept it and they didn't find it, so
That's
it
cool.
teed
but-
off.
Yeah. So we don't know if the college ever purchased that property, they just fenced it?
No, they didn't, Councillor Hebert. So this is the Peace River Regional District lot mapping that's available online. And as you can see, that's sitting there. It is a village-owned right-of-way. It's technically an extension of the alley in behind the fire hall.
What I'm trying to ask though, is was the alley purchased at some point?
No. Otherwise, it would be showing as part of this lot here. It's village owned. When we click on it on that map, it's a really good mapping system they've got to plug the PRD, by the way. But so when we click on that and say find data on the map, it identifies it as a locality. So any other parcel of land that's privately owned, we'll just pick one, find data on the map. You see it identifies it as a parcel. So it's a legal right of way. It's owned by the village.
Okay, I only have one other question. Do you guys have any more questions?
No.
Chris, and then this question is for you. Is there, because I don't know, but I'm going back to SCBA's. So is there a protocol for the dispersal of village property?
Yeah, absolutely. So in under the community charter, and this might alleviate some of Councillor Smith's concerns as well, we're obligated to send a village disposal of land out to public notice and consultation. So procedurally speaking, the steps are, a written expression of interest to purchase the land. Council discusses whether or not you'll entertain it to begin with. If that's the case, then we begin the legal process, which includes having it surveyed, having it appraised, and then we send it out to public consultation. If there's any objections or anything like that, council can discuss those and debate them. But of course, even under some objections, you can still say, yeah, we hear your concerns and we're still comfortable with it. But it's not, because of the appraisal process that's required too, there's no favoritism that can be present. I'm required to call an independently certified professional appraiser. What's the value of this chunk of land? They'll provide a dollar value. Council is legally not permitted to sell it below that dollar value.
Should we have letters from PNG and whatever to verify that there's no?
Yeah, that's part of the public notification process. So those utility operators have.
What if Bart wants to buy the property?
Then it would be a,
Yeah, so that's possible as well. Part of that public consultation process is an opportunity for somebody else from the public to come along and say, oh, I'm interested in it as well. Let's have ourselves a good old fashioned bidding war.
As long as nobody maintains.
Well, you can have it.
Well, I just see the price of your property just skyrocket. Sorry, whoops, we can cut that out of YouTube. All right, so let's call a question on this for following the process under the community charter. All in favor? Opposed? Okay,
So does that mean council's not gonna
Sorry, Ken was in favor and Barb and
Yeah.
Marlene are opposed.
So then I'm just gonna say this one thing. From now on, the village will be maintaining it.
Yeah.
And you will get a call every week.
And theoretically, your worship, it's because it's a village asset, we can maintain that along with that.
Sorry, Al,
No, yeah,
but
no.
these two are against us.
Yeah. Excellent done.
I yield back the meeting.
8.4 recommendation. Just remember when someone needs a fireplace to let it off.
that council discussing 2021-2025 fire department protective services budget.
Can I get a seconder? So Ken or Barb, which one? Kenny, which one did you get? Which one did you get on the budget?
Ooh, I took Ken.
Because they both said second. Oh, so I didn't know if that was the third or not.
Yeah, I was watching.
Okay, Chris.
Thank you, your worship. I have what I believe is the shortest PowerPoint I've ever presented to you guys, but maybe that's a good thing. So following the direction from last council meeting, we have the new fire hall budget. The direction was to have it be essentially the same as last year. We took that to mean in terms of dollar value, so we had to massage some accounts up and down in order to get us there, but it's within about 20 bucks. So I'll go through some of the other stuff, just, to recap some of the other information. So, so we'll look at the fire department budget back in 2015, review and compare the previous years, and then propose the 2021, I should have been the 2025, but with focus on 2021. So those are the numbers for the budgets dating back to 2015. We did discuss last year some of the potential reasons for that, including the inclusion of the medical calls. Council's taken steps to address that. I can say, without repeating the numbers off the top of my head, we have seen a significant decrease in call volume as a result of knocking off those two low urgency category medical calls. So that's good. But numbers for the last couple of years, fairly consistent within that $250,000 range. Looking at it as a graph, like I say, it's pretty close over the last few years. And then these are just some of the calls for service numbers that we've seen in the past years, up here 58% since 2015. But again, I'm kind of flogging a dead horse here. We've addressed some of that, right? So the total effect of it will remain to be seen by the end of 2020. Dipping into the numbers that you guys have in the agenda package, it's the 2021 column highlighted in green. I did leave 2020 in there for comparative reasons. And you can see last year we had 253,633. This year we've got it down, or got it to 253,652. From last year's budget, because, similar to this, when we project it forward, that number in the 2020 budget was about 260,500 after 2% for inflation on all the categories. So the way we managed to get there was, massaging some of the more discretionary numbers, with the big one being the minor capital for the fire department. So those minor capital items that the chief has requested this year include 2 SCBA units, 3 to 4 sets of turnout gear or bunker gear, and fire retardant coveralls for some of the staff. So, yeah, is what it is. The training line, and the chief and I agreed that we were going to discuss that particularly. It's likely this year the fire department's going to fall dramatically under budget when the actuals come in at year end, because we barely utilized that training budget due to COVID. A lot of the training seminars and all of that stuff just
But they worked with pay.
closed right down. Yeah, but the issue is, and again, working with the chief on this, that training can't stay postponed forever. So
No.
they do have to do it. And a lot of it is legislative requirements.
Do you have a list of what training?
No, we'd have to ask the chief for that. We're talking
It's in his
industry
playbook.
specific stuff. I wouldn't have a clue.
It's a volunteer fire department, so they are responsible for if the fire goes awry. So they all can be sued personally if anything goes wrong. So I think it's our responsibility to make sure that our firefighters are well trained.
Yeah, and part of the issue with training, to be honest with you, Councillor Smith, is that a lot of that stuff is legislatively required. So even if I brought a list to council, a lot of it, council wouldn't have the option to say, no, we don't want you to go to this, this, and this. If the chief says they have to have it, they have to have it.
That seems terrible that a volunteer firefighter could be held responsible, liable.
That's what they're changing the.
So, we're a political body. Is there something that we can do and to say we're opposed to this and change it?
No, we've been at UBCM. It's been brought up at UBCM several times.
Because the cost is just not sustainable.
But Chris found out some things
Yeah,
over
thanks.
the last couple of days, if you want to discuss
Yeah,
that.
thanks, Your Worship. So, appreciate that. I've been throwing around a concept to propose to council over the last month or so regarding the fire department. And it's not etched in stone yet, because I'm still talking to the insurance companies, but you guys, like a lot of the other councils, often focus on the expense side of the budget, right? Oh, we've got issues, we've got to fix them, we've got to lower the expenses. We're only looking at half the equation. Right, and you guys have heard me beat that drum a few times with respect to taxes and other fees and the business licenses and that kind of stuff, right? If we're not focusing on our revenue and only focusing on our expenses, we're only looking at half the pie, really. So fire department is one of those as well. And the idea kind of popped into my head because if we take a look at other aspects of the village operation, if we got a lawn that we go cut for a derelict property, we have the fees and charges that we levy on that person. Somebody calls an ambulance, they get hit with a fee for service, right? All of this other stuff, with one exception. You get a $700,000 fire truck show up to your house to help you, and you get charged $0. And so that, a couple of years ago, when we sent our fire trucks up to Dease Lake to serve that forest fire, we ended up generating about $70,000 in revenue for that week or week and a half that we were up there. The rates that the province paid for these apparatuses was astronomical. It was reflective of the dollar value of stuff that was being sent up there. So my thought was, is there a way to recover some of those fire department costs through fees and charges? And I knew it wouldn't be palatable to council to bill the residents directly for that, but what I'm actually working with is one of the insurance brokerages in Dawson Creek that I have a good relationship with. And they've done some preliminary investigation into the wording of most of the insurance policies of their 3 big house insurance or property insurance providers. And it turns out there's actually provisions in there for somebody who suffered a fire or other incident that requires the fire department to be billed by the municipality for the cost of the fire department, and it's a claimable expense under their insurance.
But how would you know who's who? I mean, if somebody's not insured.
That would be up to us it would be up to the homeowner to make sure that they have a policy to cover that. But the insurance, one of the lead people at this brokerage has essentially said all the policies or all the underwriters she's contacted so far have some variation on that wording in their policies. So basically what that means is the village can now start to recover some of the cost of the fire department deployments to the residents, but really it's not the residents that are paying directly because it's an insurable expense under their policies. So one way to look at it. You guys are under no obligation to entertain that, of course, but I'd run the idea by the mayor a couple of days ago. And it's one of those avenues that we can look to help start offsetting some of the costs. So for example, the Peace Haven fire, we spent 4 days there. Had we had a policy like that in place, we could have been billing $250 an hour to the insurance company for Peace Haven for the cost of that fire suppression, instead of needing 4 days worth of that cost entirely on our own.
And then we have a mess that won't get cleaned up.
So one of the ones that the chief has commented to me about, because I've run the idea by him as well, of course, is things like false alarms. There's properties in town that we attend to for false alarms 3, 4, 5 times a year. And we attend them, oh, false alarm, yeah, pack up the truck, drive back to the hall. Well, if you're a property owner and you're allowing 4 or 5 false alarms to be attended by the fire department every year, there should maybe be a cost to that. So things like that, we can custom tailor the policy to fit us. But it's sort of a concept that I've been planning on proposing to you guys as a way to start again. I don't know what's happened with my thing here. But as a way to start looking at that cost recovery side of things. Because at the end of the day, as it stands right now, like a lot of the other departments, if we want to continue to make things sustainable, we're either axing services, staff, or programs. So, because we've chopped $500,000 off of the budget over the last 4 years. And to maintain the status quo, there's not much place left to cut.
How much of that 253 does the regional district pay for?
34%, so about 80.
Of everything?
Of everything, yeah.
Everything, that means the training, the fire supplies?
Yes. This is the budget that I submit to the regional district. They yay or nay it. They've essentially always yayed it through a good strong partnership. But yeah, 34. I think it's 34.6 is the actual number, but about 34%.
But they also own the fire trucks.
They own one of them. Yeah. Now that's the one thing that they don't pay for is capital items. At least through that firm, annual recurring agreement. But to the mayor's point, they do supply us with a fire truck. There's a new one coming, in 2021. 550,000, I believe, Your Worship, and they just hand us the keys. Part of the agreement.
And there was extra things put on it.
Yeah,
We
so
also go out to,
we do. Yeah.
yeah,
And that's.
outside of Coos
Yeah,
Creek.
that's part of that reciprocal agreement,
Yes.
right? Is in exchange for those dollars and those apparatuses, we've got a defined service area that we provide service to the regional
Yeah.
district for. But similarly, same thing to consider there, right? And if council was going to entertain a cost recovery fee structure for the fire department, we'd probably have to, speak to the regional district area E director, or area D director, I should say. See if they're on board with that or not as well. But, and if they weren't, we could simply do it within the boundaries of Pooskoopi and it doesn't apply to Area D. I don't know. But I would suspect.
Wherever our fire trucks go.
Well, and my assumption is if the insurance companies are covering that for House and Poos, somebody who has a house insurance policy in Tom's Lake with the same company would have the same coverage.
So somebody out in Tom's Lake doesn't have insurance and our vehicle goes out there,
Then they get a bill.
Then they get a bill.
then they get a bill. And obviously they couldn't afford insurance, so how could they afford the bill?
Or they didn't know that they could
Right.
add that to their insurance.
Well,
Well-
I think we'd have to have the ability to waive it for those who didn't have insurance.
Then why buy insurance? The village would waive it.
Well, we're only waiving the cost of responding with the fire truck.
That's
not
true.
replacing them.
Yeah.
Replacing their house.
Well, and really, why would somebody not have house insurance? That I've heard those stories too, but you know, in 10 years of being a career banker, I never came across anybody that didn't have house insurance. Most mortgage contracts require you to have house insurance, or the mortgage is immediately null and void if you don't.
But some of those places are mortgage-free and some of them do not have insurance.
And
That's
again,
right.
if-
Most of those people in Plum Lake are young families, so.
Well, and I'll caution council, we're speaking about Area D right now, so we kind of have to keep it within our sandbox at the moment. So it's conceivable that some residents in Poos don't have house insurance as well. But at the end of the day, if you're a homeowner and you choose to do that to save costs, you're rolling the dice, if anything. It's a conscious decision you've made yourself.
Yeah.
Nobody's forced you to do that, and it is what it is.
Marlene?
Yeah, sometimes it isn't a matter of choosing. It's, do I have food on the table, or do I pay this
Mhm.
insurance? And, I mean, most responsible people want to have that insurance. They do. It's like having insurance on your vehicle.
But the bank
It's
will
like
have all
having
your
life
loan.
insurance. It's, there's all kinds of insurances, and responsible people want that. It's the people who can't afford it, even though they would love to.
On a percentage basis, Councillor Hebert, I mean, you've been in the community a long time. How many homeowners in Poos on a percentage basis would you say don't have insurance on their houses?
Oh, I know a few.
But in the community in general, I mean, are we talking 1%, 2%?
Oh, I can't give you percentages because I'm not out there being a social butterfly anymore. It's not my job. But it's those long-standing community members who are, for whatever reason, do not have that insurance that I really would struggle to have a fee imposed
But you
upon
guys
them.
complain about the fire hall's budget, but yet you guys don't want the fire hall to make money.
And it wouldn't
Well,
be
it's
making,
the
no,
cost-
To cover its butt.
to
Not
recover,
have
it
it
it would be, it certainly wouldn't be making money. We're never gonna generate,
No.
unless we,
you're gonna
unless
want
we
them to
build a
cover
darn
their
thing out
butt.
at $1,000 an hour, we're never gonna recover the entire cost. But I hear what you're saying, right? And you know, are we looking at that decision based on the 5 households in Poos that maybe don't have house insurance?
That's their gamble.
That's their gamble.
Marlene?
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
That's their gamble. And it would be unfortunate. And it'll probably happen even more now that people are having problems during this period of financial stress. This budget was substantially increased when the first responders
The
were
medical.
signed on. Hmm?
The medical.
And that was in 2015 by previous council.
14.
14? Okay.
14 or 15 is when.
I thought it was 15.
Tail end of 15, and we saw the cost increase in 16 for the most part.
Yeah.
But he didn't
So-
even talk to the regional district about it.
somewhere
He just
right
went ahead
around
and signed.
that neck of the
So
woods.
he never even had a contract, nothing with the regional district. So we're working on a contract right now with the regional district for the medical. Barb?
The truck that Blair drives has a big decal on it, fire department.
Mhm.
Where is it billed out in here? And how much gas per month?
The deco was put on the truck prior.
Yeah, that was part of the purchase to equip it. I'm not sure I understand what you're asking.
Oh, is that under equipment, the pickup? Like, I know that we split that truck between Public Works
Yeah.
and the fire hall.
Not
Or is
that-
it all billed to the fire hall?
Most of it is billed and really billed, so that truck was purchased for cash. There's no outstanding loan.
Yeah, but there's maintenance, there's tires,
Yes.
there's.
Yeah, there's, I don't know the ratio off the top of my head, but we do bill some of it back, or not bill, allocate it between Public Works and the fire hall, but I'd have to go look those numbers up for you, I don't know. off the
Do you
top
know
of my
what
head.
the gas consumption is?
We do track it by fleet card, but off the top of my head for that one vehicle, no, but I can get you that information.
I would
if you
just
want.
wonder where it,
It would fall into, that would end up falling into, there's,
operating expenses?
yeah, fire trucks operating expenses. And that would be sort of a catch-all GL for fuel insurance.
Now, they're going to have to take their uniforms to be dry cleaned and cleaned. They can't just, is that in here somewhere?
We've sort of looked at that under the fire supplies and then equipment repair, but it remains to be seen how much that's actually gonna cost, so.
And how many people do we have on the fire department this time?
I'd have to ask the chief specifically. Last time I talked to him, we had about 50 volunteers. Yeah. Yeah. And really, sorry guys, I kind of got off track with that revenue concept. That's not something that has to be decided. We can discuss that further. I'm working with the insurance brokerage there to actually get me a report. So she's copying and pasting some of the language from those insurance policies, so you guys can see exactly how that.
So Chris,
That wording
can you, since Barb asked the same question at the last council meeting, do you think you could bring this stuff to the next council meeting when we actually approve that budget?
Which, sorry,
The information that she's asked twice now?
the gas in the fire truck. Yeah.
Can you bring that information?
Sandy, can you make a note for me, please?
So you want the gas costs, and what was the other thing?
How much?
Tire.
How much of the fire chief's truck is allocated to Public Works and the fire department?
Okay.
Any other questions?
That's a lot of money.
Do we have to stick with this budget even if we lose our oil and gas?
The Peace River Agreement funding?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mandatory.
No.
This budget is mandatory. Their training and stuff is mandatory.
So some of it in there, potentially the training, your worship, but really if the Peace River Agreement funds were to dry up, council would probably have to consider discontinuing the fire department altogether. There'd be no way to.
Well, yeah, and then they would just go out into the region.
Only about 11 or 12% of our revenue right now is generated from taxes. So the residents don't even pay for this as it is right.
But that oil and gas money is to be for capital. It's not for,
We're one of 2 Peace Region municipalities that consistently use it for operating expenses. And some of the larger centers are scaling back without disclosing anything that was in
So you
close.
can the SLP, you can talk all about the SLP.
So yeah, theoretically, but I think I've reported this to you guys in some of the CAO reports and other previous tax presentations. I mean, the national average, give or take, for taxes, tax revenue to total expenses is between 50 and 75%. And we're 11 or 12.
And we're
That's,
sitting at
I don't control.
where on the
That's-
tax rate for British Columbia?
We're probably in one of the 10 cheapest municipalities in the province.
It should have been kept in moderate.
It should have been adjusted
And it wasn't.
every year, starting years and years and years ago. And it
Yes.
wasn't. Yeah. And now we've allowed it to get to a spot where we're so far behind. To get to where we need to be represents a pretty unpalatable tax increase. So,
I understand that,
yeah.
yeah.
But not to say, that to the mayor's point, I mean, even if we were to double or, God forbid, triple our taxes, we still find ourselves maybe in the high end of the provincial average.
But my husband was just in here to buy a piece of property, that's income for the village, and you guys turned him down, so, I mean, what? Right there, you guys talk about fair share money. He just offered to buy a piece of property and you guys turned him down. That's income for the village.
And so that's part of what we have to, you know, if the goal is sustainability, folks, we've got to manage for the greater good, right? So we can't be making financial decisions on the potential impact it might have on one or two people in town that may not have house insurance, for example. If 99% of the people in town have a house insurance policy and they're covered for fire department charges,
Cheers on.
you know, really at the end of the day, they're paying for that coverage and they're not getting it because we don't have the fees to levy it. So really, you know, and that's right. I know that the tax increases are a tough pill to swallow, both for you guys as residents and the community in general. But you know, if and we've heard it, you know, for years, the goal is sustainability. You know, we've got to address the revenue side in a very focused and meaningful way to get to sustainability. And we can't just keep cutting expenses because, you know, to put it to you honestly, guys, the only way to look at cutting expenses now is we start closing the office a couple of days a week, we eliminate the fire hall, we stop the rec programs, there's nowhere left to cut.
And that would be the residents' decision on what to do.
Right, we've whittled away 20 to 25% of the budget over the last 4 or 5 years. So if we're, you know, there's no way to continue to move towards sustainability by cutting expenses, not measurably anyways.
Well,
You know.
I realize that you have to increase taxes, but we have no idea what 2021 is going to look like financially.
But we can't
And
stop
having,
you can't stop dead. You still have to
oh no,
operate.
we can't stop dead in our tracks, but trying to get, if 20% of the people can't afford to even live here and have to live in a motorhome, then we're down that 20%. It's going to be like we're going to be struggling anyway. It doesn't matter how you look at it.
We could be struggling in 2025, we could be struggling in 2030. We
Yeah.
could be struggling 30 years from now.
Yeah.
But right now, we need to make the town sustainable as much as we can. We need to bring in the revenue as much as we can. We need to. We need to. There's been projects over the years that should never have happened. They've been over budget. There's property taxes that we could have in the community that wasn't. It was, the mayor at the time was swayed. It's things like that. That's why we're in the boat that we are in today. And I am trying to climb out. And between you two, I'm not climbing out because you guys are poo-pooing everything.
But knowing that and I mean, it's the fire hall budget that has brought it up, but knowing that we're on council and we're supposed to be dealing with infrastructure, it's, and in particular, I guess, when it comes to water and sewer, but all we're able to do is just sustain with the money that we are bringing in right now.
He just gave you an option.
So,
Right.
I think, if I may, just to throw something else here. You have a great point, right? And I share your concerns. And I think last meeting I said we're gonna have to be reactive to what we have coming in through regards to fair share money. But I'm very cognizant of this. If we, let's just say, for the sake of argument, we close down the fire hall,
Oh, no.
all right?
Yes,
So,
okay.
just for the sake of argument,
But every time we have a meeting, no, just a minute. Every time we have a meeting and discusses this and it becomes negative, do you honestly think that the firemen are gonna actually stay there? in that hall?
just
Wait.
for the sake of argument, say we close down the fire hall. Now, we were just talking about people in the community that doesn't have home insurance
Yeah,
because they can't afford insurance. So then everyone else in the community what's gonna happen to their insurance if the community doesn't have a fire department?
Exactly.
So will the residents see an increase in their insurance because we can no longer respond? And how many more people is that going to take out of the ability to insure their homes? So we have a municipal responsibility in some aspect to provide services for the residents of our community. So how do we continue to do that and make things affordable for the residents of our community? That's my thought there.
You're right, Ken.
Can I get that in writing?
Yes, yes, you can. I say Ken Drover is right, and my husband actually texted me and said, thank you, Ken, for speaking on his behalf. He appreciates it.
I didn't. I said, let's follow the community charter.
Yeah.
So,
But he appreciates it.
So circling back to this, folks, you know, this is something that the fire chief and I feel we can make work for this year. And like I said, the direction was to keep it the same as last year. It's $20 off. So if you guys are okay with that, then you know, I'll bring it back. You know,
We have to bring it back with questions for Barb.
well, yeah, I always bring everything, you know, back at least twice, just in case something slips through the cracks or a second opportunity to look at it, but it does have to be at the regional district by November 15th. And so the next meeting's November 4th, we should have tons of time to.
Just have one thing to say, if we continue to talk about this budget like we are, the fire department watched the YouTube video. I have been thanked many, many times for their concern about their safety. Now, if they walked out of that building, then where are we gonna be? We need to keep that in mind too. Okay, so anybody seen correspondence?
yes. Can we take a boo at 9.10
Yeah.
on page 112?
Yeah.
So,
You like that, did you?
well, you know,
I got that email.
In the event that we are ordered to immunize the citizens, I'll be against that.
Me
But if they do require code to provide immunization, have we given any thought as to what building we would allow them to
It would be
use?
the region, because they can't use the school or the seniors hall.
Is there a reason why they can't use the community center?
Because school?
Or the seniors hall?
I said the seniors hall, they could use the seniors hall in the region. They can't use the community hall because of the school.
But if, as a municipality, can we say that they can use the Legion? Like, we don't have authority to give consent to the Legion?
No, we don't.
Or
We
seniors.
don't be able to consent to properties that are under our operational.
We won't consent, but we will send them that way. Because those are the only two buildings that we have.
We could potentially use the council chambers here as well, your worship, but
Fire department.
there's nowhere. Well, there's an upstairs training room in the fire hall, but it's 2 flights of stairs.
This would be good because you can come in and go out,
Potentially, yeah,
especially COVID.
yeah.
There's no exit. Oh, well, they'd have to go back,
Yeah.
go in, go out.
Yeah, in the event that happened. I mean, yeah. to
We
your
can
point,
find something.
Yeah, you know, although, you know, to that letter, we're under no obligation. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't, you know. So even when COVID was,
So just
Sign it.
for the record, when we were talking about COVID and they were looking for spaces, we had an agreement with the school that they could use the school.
No, they can.
We had talked to Mike Reedman and asked him
Did we get a letter
if they
in?
asked, no, but he said if the ministry came to us and asked for the building, they would comply with the request. But it would be something that's worked out between the two of us.
community center would be the best place.
I've had the flu shot at Trombley House, I've had it at the seniors hall, and I've had it at the Legion, so through time.
Well, that's great, and that's a fantastic segue into 9/11. And Lorraine, would you speak to 9/11?
No, you can speak to Lana, and you're the liaison.
Yeah, but
I
that's,
got the email, I sent it to you, you are the liaison.
okay, yeah, but I'm reading it and I'm kind of getting my hopes up, but I don't know if I should be getting my hopes up, right? Because the Secretary Treasurer reported that during the regular closed meeting of the board, a proposed cost share percentage in support of the Poos Koopy Elementary School addition was agreed upon. Yeah, it's like, woo, right? Yes. But then, what are we talking about, cost sharing percentage?
Chris?
Yeah, thank you. I believe, speculating a little bit, but I believe they need cost sharing between the Ministry of Education and School District 59.
But also the community center, because that's our cost. Right?
We haven't been approached by any school authority to cost share all this, and I do recall a conversation with the treasurer that when they make applications to the Ministry of Education for certain building expansions, it's not uncommon for the ministry to say, we'll fund part of it, then that actual local school authority funds a part as well. So nobody's reached out to us in any official capacity.
Well, I think this is absolutely fantastic.
Fantastic.
And, you know, for Chad and whoever else was involved
Well,
in
Chad
the
is
process.
the chair now, right?
Oh, okay.
And Trout
Yeah.
is our
Liaison.
director.
So to both of them, fantastic, and thank you guys so much.
Yeah, good. Kudos to them.
Done?
So bylaw 11.1 recommendation?
That council gives fourth reading and adopts the hen keeping bylaw number 1024, 2020.
Second.
Discussion?
Yep. Sorry.
Mr. Hens?
It was just one thing that, it's on page 117, and 6F. And with regards to the maximum size of the coop, 8 meters squared in the floor area. So I'm assuming 8 by 8, right? 8 meters squared, 8 feet wide, 8 feet long. 8 meters squared. Yeah, that's
It's in the zoning.
Yeah,
that's usually,
I gotta convert that to feet.
that's a pretty big coop.
That's huge.
No, it's actually not that big. It's deceivingly big because it would be 8 square meters would be 2 meters in width by 4 meters in length.
So 8 meters at 8, 16, 24 feet wide.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah.
no, because the surface area is 8, so it's the surface area of a square or a rectangle, length times width.
Oh,
So it's not 8 meters by 8 meters, that would make it 64 square meters. So to arrive at 8 square meters of floor area, you're talking 2 meters in width by 4 meters in length or some variation thereof. So 3.3 feet per meter, so 2 meters wide would be a little over 6 feet, 6.5 feet, and then 4 meters long, what's that, 12, yeah, maybe 14 feet long. So 6.5 feet by 14 feet, give or take, would be the maximum.
Or they was smaller.
Yeah, or small.
That's
That's
maximum.
just a maximum. Yes.
So 8 foot wide, 8 foot long. Is that too big?
Yep. That would probably be too big, I would think.
Yeah.
for 4 chickens.
Because
Yeah. Yeah.
you got two.
That's
You
big.
get a sheet of plywood is 4 by 8. You put them both together, it's 8 by 8.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
And
so-
and that's a good size.
8 by 8 would be 64 square feet, and 8 square meters would only be about 26-ish square feet.
What's the biggest shed we're though?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I mean, 8 by 8.
It can't be any bigger than a shed.
8 by 8 is not big.
8 feet by 8 feet is actually bigger than the bylaw would permit.
So maybe we could look at that because it's really, just 2 sheets of plywood put together, that's it. And it makes it a lot easier to build a shed or a chicken coop with 2 sheets of plywood.
would be 8 feet by 2.
4 by 8.
Absolutely right.
And then the height, 2 meters, that's 6 feet. And again, a sheet of plywood is 8 feet. So,
So are you wanting this changed then?
well, yeah, I'd like to see feet put in there too.
Sorry, I was wrong on that, guys. 8 square meters is 86 square feet. So it would be, so if you had a coop 8 feet by 8 feet, it would be okay.
8 feet by 8 feet by 8 feet, would that be okay?
No.
No.
I mean, just keeping your construction simple, right? And each sheet foot of plywood, so now you're making us cut the plywood to build a wall?
That's over my head. I'm
No,
not
you're not having that big. If it's bigger than a freaking shed, they don't need it.
So are we changing?
Yeah, but I mean, it's only 8 feet tall if you go
No.
2 sheets of plywood.
No, it's not 8 feet tall.
Yeah.
The coop itself can be 2 meters tall. I think, is it 2 meters? Yeah, 2 meters
2 meters in height.
Yeah,
So
but that's about
that's-
6 feet.
2 meters, this is 6 feet, so you got
You gotta cut one of your pieces of plywood.
I just don't think 2 pieces of plywood is too big. It makes it so much simpler to build, cutting and reducing, keeping everything straight from a challenged carpenter.
Yeah. 2 meters is 6.5 feet.
You know, make it 8 by 8 by 8 and whatever that is in meters, cool. I would like to present that to council and I'm good with whatever you decide.
But it also has to coincide with the bylaw, so how much property does it take up, Chris?
That I don't know off the top of my
It
head.
states right here that the coop can't be, it has to be at least 2.5 meters from the
From the
exterior side of the
but it doesn't
parcel.
speak to parcel coverage.
It says in the zoning bylaw.
Yeah.
So-
And that's an issue too, folks. If we put a different number here than what's in zoning, we've got to change that in zoning effectively. We have to update zoning anyways, so that's not the end of the world. But
It means they don't get their chickens this week.
When?
It means this doesn't go through, we have to start all over again. We go back and do first, second, third.
I'd like to see the bylaw officer out there with a measuring tape measuring the coops. I'm being facetious, no, I wouldn't.
actually, he will be, because that's part of
Part
what
of the
you
permit.
guys directed us to do. He has to verify the measurements for the permit.
Okay, so are we doing all in favor? Or do you want changes, Ken?
Well, if changes are gonna throw this back to square one, I'm gonna shut up.
Okay, all in favor?
Of me shutting up.
Ken shut up. 11.2 recommendation.
That council gives fourth reading and adopts the tax exemption bylaw number 1026, 2020.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Ken, you didn't speak. Administration report, CAO report. Chris, there's some questions I have in there.
Okay. Page 124.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my fingers to work so. We don't have your whole report here. Just parts of it, eh?
Yeah, that's just the one.
Okay, can you explain the housing needs assessment report?
I can.
Can you speak on that?
Yeah, not really past what's there, your worship. The lead consultant has said they don't want any information disclosed until it fully goes public to all the participating municipalities, so.
Okay, do we have our loader now?
We do.
Okay, do we have a blade and everything?
Yeah, it
We
should have
purchased
been,
that blade, didn't we?
yeah, we did, and it should have been installed today, so they were working on it today. Yeah, ready to go. That was part of the reason we put the snow clearing policy in front of you guys there too, so.
So I'd like to thank you for doing the 11 complete projects out of the 17. That's 90%. That's That's good.
Yeah, we anticipate easily 90% again this year, so there's only that one project that's not quite actioned yet. And maybe while we're on that and segue into that
Into
list
the action?
as well, yeah. Really good news with the emergency response plan review. So I spent more time than I should have reading that. I guess, it's a good thing. It's good review, but about 100 or so pages into it, I said, geez, I'm just going to call the company that put this thing out and see if, they can just reference stuff that needs to be updated. So I spoke to that person, and he says, yeah, no, aside from a change in a couple of acronyms for the ministries, nothing's materially changed in these plans. So what I think I'd like to do is just take that emergency response plan, put a cover sheet in there that says it was reviewed in 2020, and schedule another review for a couple of years or until something materially changes, and it should be good to go.
And you've updated Blair on it?
So no, not yet. I was working through it before I really spoke to him, but I'll probably hand it to him and ask him to skim through it too.
Yeah, because
Make
he's
sure
our
nothing
emergency
jumps out at
coordinator.
him. Yeah. So, but yeah, so that one looks like it's actually going to wrap up within the next week or so without any cost at all.
Thank you. What about Loran's retirement gift? And the funding grounds has gone back, Chris? For Canada Day?
Yes.
Yeah, we advised them that we wouldn't be using it this year.
And you contacted Rangers?
I reached out to them by phone, left them a voicemail message. They haven't called me back yet, so I can try again this week.
Okay, please do. Any capital special projects?
So nice to see complete.
Senior survey, we don't need to do that because of the needs assessment.
Not necessarily, Your Worship. Those were two slightly different projects. So I know I've been talking to the corporate officer. She has, I believe, reached out to UNBC a second time. Oh,
I can speak to that. I actually spoke to the lady yesterday for that UNBC survey, and at this time, they're not conducting any more surveys. They're not doing any new ones. They started Tumbler Ridges before COVID, and the purpose behind their survey is to actually do a face-to-face survey. It's not over the phone, it's not by email, it's not, they actually want to talk to the seniors and see what it is they want that will keep them in their houses so that they can live out their retirement in their homes. What is it that, like, is it the back steps that she says, like, somebody says, well, I have a beautiful backyard, but because of the stairs, I haven't gone out there in 10 years because I don't feel safe. So it's looking at things like that. How can we make your house more livable and more safe for you to stay in instead of having to move to a senior's facility?
I think Sam Barber started doing that for the village with Area D and Area E and Dawson Creek. So maybe you should reach out to the deputy CAO for the regional district.
They don't have one right now.
Oh, I know, Kelsey. Is retired and heading down south.
Really? Oh. Oh, okay. Well, I can reach out to CAO too,
Yeah.
or corporate officer. But anyway, at this time, they're not conducting any more because what it is they come to the house, they talk to Little Mary, and then Little Mary says, well, little Jean down the road could use this service too. So it's basically you go knock on their door and they come over and they join in the conversation. So it's a lot of interactive. So because of COVID, they're not doing it right now. But she said she would keep me in the loop, and when they do start back up again, we could bring it back up.
Just a minute, 'cause Barb, did you ever hear back from Northern Health
No.
on your seniors thing?
That's right.
yeah, thanks, Your Worship. So, considering what the corporate officer just said, and that we don't have that potential UNBC model to lean on, and the housing needs assessment. So it looks like the housing needs assessment is going to be wrapped up by around middle of November, and the target for the working group is to have it in front of council for review for the middle of November. There's really only 2 council meetings in December between then and the end of the year. Might not hurt to take the housing needs assessment, because there is a lot of literature and information about seniors and the demographics and the numbers and stuff in there. So the senior survey might be something to push to next year.
Yeah.
Although we have
Unless we get something back from the regional district.
and although it's been on the agenda for a couple of years. But it's a tough thing to try and nail down.
Well, I just think it's different.
Well, and
You don't like
I know I don't like the bureaus on action memberships.
You're OCD, Christopher.
It is, because that was going to affect my percentages at the end of the year if I just have
It's
to.
my list.
It's Sandy's.
It's my list, not your list.
No, I own the capital and special projects in their entirety, so it's.
Oh, really?
One out of 17 is 3-4% of my report that I don't want to lose just because. So, so really the options at this late stage now, and admittedly we did lose a couple of months waiting to see if the university would support us. So we kind of lost that time. But the options really would be to postpone it, or to look at doing just some general survey mail out, so a mail drop to the mailboxes in town, and leave it really open-ended and say, the Village of Hooscoopy Council is interested from hearing from seniors in the community as to what your general concerns are. 5-6 lines on the form, please fill this out, drop it off at the village office if you have any concerns, right?
After COVID, we may see the dynamics change on what the needs are.
Yeah, good point. So maybe to that end, it's worth, postponing it to 2021 or 2022 even, and
We'll just see what the regional district says.
Yeah.
So Councillor, calendars there, anybody see anything?
Has anyone heard about Remembrance Day? I don't imagine there'll be a service.
Yes, there is a service, but it will just be a small service. Al called me and I have to do a speech. Then it'll just be a Zoom. Sandy?
So there was a email put out by the government yesterday, we posted it all over, that there is no services.
No, it's just virtual, I guess.
Yeah, so are they still doing a laying of the wreaths? Yeah, so we asked, but they couldn't tell us yet. So I don't know that they're actually gonna be doing, but we're waiting for them to get in touch with us. We have been, admin's been asking every other day.
And did you talk to, you've got Al's number?
I've got Al's number, so maybe I'll give him a call tomorrow.
Okay, anything else? No? Okay. Councillor White didn't have a report, she's not here. Councillor Smith?
Our bottle drive, we didn't have many bottles out, but I do want to acknowledge Blair helping me. He took one into town, I took the other. We maybe got a pickup load. People didn't have their bottles out, and then they put them out later on the day at 3-4 o'clock, helping nobody's come and get the bottles. Well, we started at 9:30 in the morning, But anyway, every bit helps. I don't know how much we collected, but thank you, and that's all.
Councillor Hubert?
Museum, winter museum meeting, October 16th. And we were talking about the Heritage Walk. That is left.
I think you had that at the last council meeting.
Yes, and I had suspected it. Les had told me that they weren't doing it, but he wanted to bring it to the board, and they just will leave it. And whatever happens, happens. So they're not doing anything with those signs.
Yeah, it's good to have them on the building, regardless if the museum's doing it or not. It's good to know that that building was built in 19 whatever.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess it would be up to us, but they're leaving it, they're not doing it, that Heritage Walk. Okay, and they are going to be doing something for Halloween, so that'll be nice, and they are doing, Christmas display.
And if you have any white sheets, Barb, Cogwell would.
Take care of it.
She can take care of, she's on.
Oh, they already got one, huh?
Oh. Okay, so
They're doing
yes.
theirs, and they're doing
Yeah,
with them, so that should be cool.
oh, will be really cool.
Anything else?
Yeah, the post office, how much gravel did you end up putting on there?
Exact volume, I don't know, Councillor Hebert. I do know at the end of the day, the delivery truck didn't go down the alley.
What?
The delivery truck didn't use the alley, they ended up parking on the street for that delivery, so, but staff went over there and patched it up. I mean, how many loads they put down, I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, I must have explained myself very well, because that laneway is used so much by the delivery, the parcel delivery Canada Post van, and they're having a difficult time with the ruts, I guess, and the holes in there, and so those are filled now with gravel, right?
On the side of the building, Chris.
On the
little
side
laneway.
where they deliver.
Well, I know the back parking lot and the laneway from the street here was done. Whether staff did any portion of the alley, I'd have to go look. I haven't.
Well, it's between the library and the post office.
Yeah,
Just that little line.
that laneway in between the two, I believe that was done, yeah.
Okay.
But was the laneway behind the church or the old library done? That I'm not sure.
I don't think that was a.
That's not
No,
concerning,
that
it's
was
the one right
It
next to the
was-
library.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just that.
Yeah, they patched that
It's
up.
just asking. I had someone comment to me about, after watching our last council meeting, about the cemetery, the markers. And I just wanted to share with you, just so you know that somebody out there is thinking about the cemetery. And they said that the foundation had put the new fence up at the cemetery, and they put the gates in and the columbarium. And they thought that having people's grave markers on their gravesite was important to memorialize them. And would it be that big of a deal for us to put those markers on? I just wanted to share that with you. Yeah.
So we weren't gonna bring it up until the next meeting, but we've actually hit a very significant snag with that. Yeah, Sandy's gonna go get it. It turns out there's a piece of freedom of information and privacy legislation that prevents us as the municipality from publishing the names in any capacity of any deceased or reserved person for 20 years after they've passed away. So the entire Unmarked Graves project was.
Susie's been to over 20 years.
But you said there was a foundation that did all this, right?
They put the columbarium,
They
the
did all the
fence
work.
in,
They should do that.
and the gates.
So why does?
They don't have a
They
foundation
don't.
anymore, they give
They
us
don't
money,
exist anymore.
they,
So Sandy's got it here. She showed me the snippet of the legislation. So the municipality as a
So
corporate
the-
entity can't publish any of
That's
the
why you
names.
need a society.
Under the Freedom of Information and Protection Privacy Act, it says disclosure for archival or historical purposes. Public body may disclose personal information in its custody or under its control for archival or historical purposes if, and this is the one that sticks out, the information is about someone who has been dead for 20 or more years.
So we've
So we
actually
can't
got,
actually publish anything,
we gotta take down the map too.
it's down.
Really?
Yeah.
There's names on it of people who hadn't passed away any more than.
All the
4 years.
reserves were on there, so the map's gonna be redone. And the ones that are reserved will not have any names.
But you can ask the ones that are reserved, before you guys go to all that work, you guys can actually ask the people that have it reserved, are they okay with it to be published? If they do, here, please sign this little piece of paper.
Well, that in itself is a pile of work.
So,
Wow, the things we learn.
Right, and that's one of those projects that's opened up a little bit of a can of worms for us. But I'd like to maybe take a minute to recognize one of our admin assistants who's been working on
Pauline,
this,
she's
doing a
awesome.
phenomenal job. Yeah.
No,
yeah.
there is too. We actually have awesome staff. We can't complain.
Yeah, agreed. But,
And that was totally necessary.
yeah, but
That
Pauline's
was-
really
that was
taken
nice.
this project under her wing and done some great work on it, and it was, you know,
The
this
poor
is-
lady eats, sleeps, and breathes.
Yeah.
Cemetery right now. She says it haunts her in her sleep some nights.
Pardon the pun.
And one more thing. I was wondering if this, from February 2019, if we could have these people tell us what all this stuff is.
Yeah.
When they presented this, they said that they were willing to.
They were coming back to explain it to us, is what they told us. And they
Yeah.
told us again when we had that.
They did, Your Worship. They've been here twice on that.
But they never.
But they haven't
They've never explained this.
They did.
No.
They said they would come back.
Yeah, no, they said they would come back, and they ended up, you guys asked them to come back, and we lined them up for a second virtual presentation. They've done it twice.
But we never. covered that.
Prioritizing. But prioritizing what? We don't know what all this is.
They never discussed it with us.
No?
Because
But they
they
talked
still
about
are
other
that,
stuff.
isn't it?
They talked about
Yeah,
other stuff, right?
inventory and road condition.
Okay.
Yeah,
They
they
never
talked about
contact-
risk assessments.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that really is the priority matrix, is the whole risk assessment profile. So inside that document, there's maps of various pieces of infrastructure, and they're all color-coded. Red, yellow, green, I believe, is the color coding
Yeah.
we use. And the reason that was color-coded is we're supposed to prioritize the stuff that was marked with red, meaning it's in poor condition.
But what's all
Oh, okay. So red on a map.
Red on the map.
This?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And they assessed culverts, the sample assessed some of the water and sewer infrastructure, and then we kind of agreed that, yeah, there's no need to necessarily dig that all up. We'll allow it to fail and replace it once it's kind of done. And then,
But Chris, the only problem with that is that it happens at 40 below. And then it costs you 3 times as much to deal with it.
and there's no way to know what's gonna fail.
But if it's red, doesn't that mean there's a problem?
Well, and red on that, there aren't a lot of pieces of sewer infrastructure that were identified in red. Most of the red stuff is culverts and roadways, so pavement condition. Now, what we can always look at is if we know we're gonna go ahead and repave the street, we might want a camera scope, well, not we will, camera scope the lines underneath it. If they appear to be in bad shape in any way, that's the time to do it. But, you know, for example, to look at that map and say, okay, we got a section of road that's green, we think the sewer underneath is dicey, it hasn't failed, but we're just gonna dig up a road that's got 10 years of useful life left and maybe change a piece of sewer infrastructure that hasn't failed, there's not a lot of value for money there. If it fails, then obviously we have to do it for sure. But when you're talking, you know, stuff that fails at -40, mostly that's water infrastructure too. The sewer infrastructure doesn't really have much volume, and you know, if anything fails at -40, it's a water pipe, and that stuff's good for a long time because those water pipes are, you know, so. But like I say, that, you know, it's not uncommon. We can have a piece of water pipe that's 5 years old, freeze and split and blow up at -40, and we can have them that are 40 years old, freeze and split and blow up at -40. There's not much way to predict the future on the water pipe.
On a water line,
Yeah.
yes, it's aged.
Um,
And another thing that really accounts for failure is when you have all those dips in the road, and when it gets cold and you drive over it and you have that constant pounding, and you're just driving down on top of those pipes and stuff, and they can disconnect or whatever, right? You have failure.
That's what we can't, what are we supposed to do with the dips? What are we supposed to do?
Well, I'm just saying that we're going to have to think about fixing some of these things that were done years ago.
So we're gonna be coming into capital and special projects probably late December, the last meeting in December. I usually put a really tentative potential plan in front of you guys, but usually January and February is when we talk capital projects in detail. If you got a couple of streets you're thinking really need attention, really, definitely shoot me an email on that. I'll add them to the list and we can take a look at them, take some pictures and bring them up. So we didn't do much for paving here in 2020, so maybe 2021.
Are we gonna do the pavement over there?
It's so yeah, we sent that email to you guys saying, oh, we need a quick decision on this, and then it got really cold. So Urban Systems has let me know they've talked to Peter Brothers, who's supposed to be doing the paving, and they're just waiting for the weather to warm up a little bit. Looks like we might have some low single digits coming next week, so fingers crossed.
So when you're talking to them, can you ask them to fill in the, where the water sits in front of my, sorry, it's in front of the mayor's house, God forbid I even talk about it. But anyway, right by the stop sign, that has been laying water there forever since the storm drain was dug up, and the contractor never did fix that. And Alfie always hauls gravel over there and fills in that hole by the stop sign.
I can
So,
ask them for a quote, Your Worship. I can't ask them to do it.
I'll just ask
for
it.
free, but
I'll ask it myself. I'm sure he'll fill it in.
yeah, let me.
Okay. Ken?
We have some trophies that belong to the village. I'm wondering if we still want them.
I think that's a wonderful idea.
Okay. I think so as well. I'll arrange for that individual to go to the village office, or?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Halloween. Are we recommending, do we have any opinion, yea or nay, for our citizens?
I have no opinion.
I personally am not
You're not?
participating in Halloween.
I never do. Nobody ever comes to my house, so it's not a big deal. I
Just
scare
like
my
to see the
dogs.
children go out.
Well, I mean, if people want to go, like they used to hold it at the fire hall, and once in a while go up there and hand them candy and stuff like that. But I don't think they're doing it this year. Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. The museum is
doing
yeah, according to the curator, they've either purchased or they've been donated about 100 bags of candy here. So
That's awesome.
yeah, purchasing, yeah.
Unless
And
it's
they're doing it with COVID.
Yes.
Yeah, COVID
Yes.
protocols.
He's
Yeah.
not sure if he's gonna string a clothesline or if he's gonna do it with tongs.
Right.
Yeah.
Walk up and walk out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to see us practice COVID protocols in the community when children come to our individual residences as well. But I'd like to see it go ahead. Anyway, but that segues into the next point. Children, not only children, but adults as well. It's that time of year. Going outside, we got winter coats on, and they're usually dark because it doesn't, you know, you don't want white colors and dirt and mud and all that flicking up. And it's hard to see these people, right? Especially if they're on a bicycle, right? I mean, when I was a kid, you couldn't have a bicycle without it being totally covered in reflective stripes and all this stuff. And
Now they're repainting them.
yeah,
The parents aren't looking at them.
so I would like us to have, I'd like to see just a community campaign, awareness campaign, saying wear bright clothes, wear something reflective when you go out at night. It's getting darker sooner, right? And
Even if you walk to the store.
even if you're walking, be seen, right?
So why don't we maybe just go over to the school and have the kids in the gym and have that conversation?
We could, but it's not only the children, it's the adults as well.
Well, the adults then deserve to be run over if they don't know not to.
Okay, put something in the.
Like seriously, pay attention to what you're when you're walking, wear a safety vest, do something.
Absolutely,
It's common
absolutely.
sense.
They
Like, why do we
should
have
be
to
wearing
tell them
something bright or reflective
The last one.
going.
Why do we have to tell an adult that? Like seriously, it's like telling them they have to wash their hands. Like, you should know that.
Well, we tell them what size chicken coop they So anyway, all right, so, and I like that idea of going to the school and having a conversation.
So Sandy, can you make that happen?
All right.
Find out if we can make that happen.
Sure. And what a great segue, school, right? The school needs volunteers for the Parent Action Committee. So if any of our residents has some extra time that they'd be able to volunteer to the school, to this particular committee. And they also, from what I understand, have to have a, what do you call that?
Criminal records.
Criminal records check done and submitted. So, but I think the school did indicate that they needed volunteers
To do what?
to assist with whatever they're doing. It's,
The PAC or the school?
Pack.
it was brought to my attention that PAC needed volunteers. Okay.
Chris?
Yeah, maybe on that note, just for purposes of the camera too, I do know with those criminal records checks, that scares a lot of people, but I know minor offenses of physical, they often don't disqualify people from doing that, so. You know, somebody who's got a minor offense for traffic tickets or something like that, then, you know, they're looking for things that could potentially put kids at risk, so.
Pedophiles.
And what about for Remembrance Day? Are we going to have a statement or something published in remembrance of?
We're working on it as we speak.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Question, do you want the ad in the newspaper?
Yes.
Okay.
So, I forgot what this was. Oh, shoot. I forgot what I was gonna say, but anyway, I just wanna say I reported, Counselor Smith's property to the bylaw officer because I feel that, she needs to set an example to the rest of the residents. If they need to get fined and they complain about their yards, we have to follow the example too.
That's good. We do have to set an example. But are you picking on me? Are you the property Gestapo? You don't live close to me. Why are you picking me out?
I've had people complain to me, yes.
To you about
Yes.
my property?
Yes. So,
And they didn't go to the bylaw officer? Did you direct them there?
yes, I did. I said, go to the village office. No, I don't want to.
So you did?
Yeah, so I did. I did it on myself. Yes, I did. Because you have to set an example. Just like licensing your dogs. You have to set an example. Anyway, so then I did something. Oh, I have a meeting Tuesday with Community Living and Super. Tuesday at 10 here at the village office. Send it.
Okay.
And that's my report. And there's no in-camera meeting, and there's no rising report, and
Make a motion to adjourn.
no